Hello everyone, today in this video we'll fight against the advanced character of our world around us, and I have to mention that 2 days ago, formally but quietly, one administration decision was taken down. I mean, so-called scamdemic, connected with not so famous recently small Chinese friend, was officially announced to be over. But when a little bit more than 3 years ago this scamdemic was announced to start, many people lost their minds. They didn't notice that it started in the same way. It started with administrative decision by WHO, ruled by the Bolshevik guy Mr. Theodoros, and it ended 2 days ago also with administrative decision. So it was only administrative decision that affected majority of countries around the world and majority of states or administrative units of the countries around the world that were affected. Some countries had wise approach, and some countries, states within these countries, also had much wiser approach than the others to this administrative decision connected with small Chinese friend. About the nature of small Chinese friend, about its existence, in what form and so on, this is another topic I would most likely discuss with you on another platform like Rumble and so on. But coming back to recently announced decision that so-called scamdemic is over, we can see that for the last 1 year, about 1.5 years, about no one cared about, people were laughing at it, because we got another circus called conflict in Ukraine and all the problems that came after so-called lockdowns and so on. So inflation, everything connected with inflation, troubles with economy, with unemployment and so on and so on. So for the last year, about 1.5 years, no one cared about these things. But for about 2 years, a little bit more, maybe 2 years and 3 months, we were in complete paranoia. Many people were prosecuted because they were thinking differently. They didn't want to take pseudo medicaments offered, sometimes enforced in some countries or in some states to some people. Some people lost their job, some people simply were prosecuted, excluded from communities, or simply, even if they didn't lose their job, they were completely isolated. They were regarded as freaks, idiots, or dangerous people because they were thinking differently than the manipulated majority. In media there was always a hysteria, so it was a really hard time, and many people were heavily prosecuted for being brave enough to think on their own on the basis of facts, of the facts that they were seeing in their surrounding. So it was period of complete lunacy and of complete hysteria, and many people fall victims into it. Some people literally, because healthcare system was not working, nothing was working. And now we see that people of sports and many, for instance, TV presenters and so on, are falling or fainting very, very often, and later we don't hear about them anymore because in most cases funeral company is taking care of them after some wonderful syrups and elixirs. It's happening, so we should ask questions and demand answers from the ones who were actually orchestrating these all prosecutions and these all actions of forcing people to do this and this and that, and really prosecuting people who didn't want to follow this path because they were trying to act based on reasons and based on facts. That's why we shouldn't forget this period. It should be painful lessons for us, all of us, to know that we should be organized as a society to resist the temptation for grabbing the absolute power over the humanity by peoples from governments and corporations that are actually ruling now a world together and organizing this hell for the rest of humanity. Of course, corporations, as I mentioned many times, are ruled by the fraction of managers because the owners are no longer interested of ruling the corporations. They are living from their interest rates and dividend. I saw many people completely bored with life and luxury, swimming with their yachts, for instance, on Bahamas, and not knowing what to do in their lives. And these are very often young people. These are most likely kids of the owners of these companies, ruled by managers, who only want to squeeze as much money as possible in as short time money as possible during their term, just simply to grab as much cash as possible and escape. And these owners are only interested in increasing dividend from their shares in the companies. I saw such people. It's a sad and embarrassing view. Such people bored with luxury and all goods of this world, swimming with their yachts from one island like on Bahamas to another and not knowing what to do in their lives. So we see that these people, together with corrupted politicians, organized hell for us, prosecuted people who were able to think. About 2/3 of people completely failed this test for thinking. That's why the ones who didn't fail this test for thinking should work on the world around us, on our neighbors, on our friends, to try to avoid this painful repetition of such sad adventure in the future. We have no other way out, because these cynical and greedy people who want only power for power and more power with time over other people will always think how to make our life more miserable and squeeze us more. That's why we need to act together, we need to be aware, we need to communicate and try to make others aware and less prone to manipulation by propaganda spread by governments and people who are ruling the big corporations. So the scandemic was started with administrative decision and it was ended 2 days ago with only administrative decision. So we know that all of this madhouse was only an administrative decision by WHO leadership, that it's financed by companies producing these pseudo medicaments, plus the origins of WHO are completely Bolshevik, completely communistic, from Soviet, because it was established by delegates from Soviet Union and China, and current director of WHO comes from Eritrea, and politically he is also a red fox, commie red fox. That's it. All the best. Have a nice day. Bye.